the UAE's #1 talk radio station.
This is Off Script Extra Time
On Dubai Eye 103.8.
Welcome back to the show, 25 to 8. It's Chris and Rob with you, talking all things sport. And Rob, 2's become 3, I'm delighted to say.
We are joined, and we're very delighted to be joined by Noni Edwards, who stuck around after the half-past news headlines to talk all things Formula One.
Thank you for letting me stay in the seat.
Noni, why not? Because you came bounding over to me this week. You're so excited. You were excited as I was this weekend because, hallelujah, Noni, we did not see Max Verstappen win again for what would have been his 11th successive win had he won in Singapore.
I mean, you can't doubt his skill, talent, whatever. But yes, it was a little bit more interesting.
It was
last
enjoyable.
week.
It was interesting, Rob. For once,
did you enjoy it, Rob?
It's a bit like, being a fan of German football and just wanting anyone other than Bayern Munich to win the league, and then they don't.
Well, thankfully,
but
Carlos
they did
Sainz
this time.
And Ferrari did win. You're a massive... I cannot tell our listeners how big of an F1 fan you are, Noni. You come bounding over to us every Monday. You're absolutely all over it. You know more about F1 than I care to even jot down. It's remarkable. You were excited on Monday. And listen, why F1? When did you fall in love with the sport?
I think it all started with touring cars back in Australia. Bathurst 1000, Peter Brock era. I mean, that was on when I was a kid. That was always on our television. We always watched the Bathurst 1000.
And the F1 was the natural progression?
I don't know. I guess I just kind of enjoyed watching it as a spectator sport. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah.
Who's your favourite driver on the grid?
Oh, well, he's got a broken hand at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo. But I'm really loving these new rookies. Really, really excited by the rookies.
We're going to get to them. There's a couple of big talking points ahead of this Japanese Grand Prix. I guess the million-dollar question for any fair weather fans out there, is it a case of, Carlos Sainz has broken the camel's back, or is it back to Red Bull dominating in Japan this weekend?
I don't like the answer that I'm going to give you.
And Rob, you want to turn off your...
Yeah, it's back to Red Bull dominance, isn't it?
Well, there are so many reasons why they didn't have a good go last week, and I think that they're all going to be resolved for this week. Essentially, people are talking about them not liking the ride height that they needed, the clearance for the last circuit. There was a technical directive issued as well. They had to change the flexible wing that was working so well for them. Now, they haven't gone into too much detail on that. Team principal Christian Horner wouldn't go into specifics. He put it down to setup issues in inverted commas. Obviously, the drivers are still taking that line as well. Sergio Perez was put on the spot, and when he was asked to explain last week's performance, or lack thereof.
We obviously have some good ideas on how we prepare the weekend and the misinformation we had and where things got wrong. But obviously, it's something that we will keep internally, but there are some good indications that we probably approached the weekend with the wrong setup.
So McLaren's Lando Norris, he also feels that it will be Red Bull's race to lose this weekend in Suzuka. And even with the upgrades that his McLaren have had, he still doesn't think that he can compete for first.
We definitely took some steps forward. I don't think that we're confident in saying we're as quick as Red Bull. I think Red Bull will probably be dominant this weekend.
Of course, Lando finishing second in Singapore last week, Noni. And you interesting that you say Danny Ricciardo. Of course, Australia have another racer, another driver, Oscar Piastri, is someone that I know Dame will read.
Oh, he loves him.
Loves him.
I think he knows him personally.
That would explain it.
I've probably just outed him there. But
Damo, if you're listening, we need to get Oscar Piastri on this blooming show.
Yeah, for sure.
It's what we do. And he's sticking around, is that right?
Definitely. He signed a 3-year contract this week, a contract extension. He's happy to be around. And Lando is happy to have him stay on as his partner.
Congrats to him. I think any contract that allows you to be longer in Formula One, I think is a great thing. So he's performed, he's done everything he's needed to, and probably I think it exceeded most people's expectations from what he's been able to achieve already this season.
All the drivers have been talking up Suzuka, very popular amongst the drivers. Here's a question for you, Knowns. You've said you followed F1 for a number of years. What's your favourite race? What's the race that gets you most excited?
Well, Abu Dhabi when I'm there.
Makes sense.
I don't know. I like Melbourne, but that's because I like seeing all the Aussie culture there.
Monaco?
Yes, definitely.
The one that I brought up with, the one that I really loved was the German. What was that? Nürburgring.
Yes, Nürburgring.
That's the one with the trees down the back straight. The trees. Then you come into it was like a stadium kind of finish. Really.
Are we talking Spa here?
No, that's not Spa. Spa's Belgium, right?
Yeah.
Sure, it's Nürburgring, where it's this the tree-lined back straight. Incredible. I used to, when I was brought up with that, it was always the German Grand Prix that would truly get me excited. I know what you're going to say, Rob.
You think I'm going to say British Grand Prix, don't you? Silverstone.
Is it?
Funnily enough, I've never been to Silverstone, even though my dad was an absolute Grand Prix addict when we were. He used to work for Hazelton Book Publishing, and they published the Formula One annual.
So you were in the prawn sandwich seats, were you?
No. I've never been. Never been. He's been a couple of times. I never went. But for some reason, I never gravitated towards Formula One. I liked every other sport almost.
But F1.
And I remember Damon Hill's win in '92, I think it was, and the emergence of Michael Schumacher, Benetton back in 1994. Dad was just obsessed, but again, I just never quite got into it. And
that's why Noni's here.
Well, exactly that. No, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah,
it's and I think it was different back then. I think my big gripe with it is that we just heard there needs to be more than two teams that are in with a shout of winning a race at the start of every single Grand Prix.
You said it off air when you came in tonight, Noni, the fact that take Red Bull out of the equation, and I know we're taking the best team and the best driver right now out of the equation, but last Sunday was so good because the other teams are very much on an even keel. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, last lap, you had three different teams, 4 cars, 3 different teams who were all possibly going to win that one. It was so exciting. And obviously, poor George Russell here.
How good would F1 be? How good would Drive to Survive be if we got to the latter stages of a season and there were 5 or 6 drivers who were still in with a mathematical shout of winning the championship?
Rob, it's the same in the Premier League, the Bundesliga. I'm talking football. League titles are wrapped up 2 or 3. And you're now smiling at me because you know.
No, a lot of league titles. Well, look at the German league. It went down to the wire. I mean, I know between 2 teams. I know we've always got
seasons past. Remember, there was a year down in Abu Dhabi. Now, this is testing my own memory here, Knowns, where there were 3 or 4 drivers. I think Vettel eventually.
Yeah, Vettel.
Fernando Alonso was in the hunt that year, and it was eventually Sebastian Vettel who took the title. So there have been seasons where it's gone close. Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg.
Well, 2020, even with Verstappen and Hamilton.
And Lewis. Well,
but I mean,
course,
that was
famously.
a 2-horse race.
But Suzuka, talk to me about this, because apparently the drivers absolutely love this track.
Yeah, I mean, they can't stop talking about how much they love it. It's a really, really challenging, twisty circuit. They talk about Sector 1 where there are just S's that they love. It's high energy. They all run on hard tyres because there's a lot of degradation there. I don't know. It's obviously Yuki Tsunoda loves it because he's the sole Japanese in the race.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
And Oscar Piastri as well. He has, I believe, taken a little bit of advice from another famous Aussie. It's Mark Webber.
Prepare your neck for Sector 1. That was the first piece of advice. And obviously there's so many factors here. You know, the wind can play a massive role, especially in all the high-speed corners. It's a long race, a lot of corners where you put a lot of energy through the tyres. So, a lot of factors, but your neck's probably a big one.
I'm going to get your thoughts, Noni. We did speak to Damien Reid about this fella. Of course, you're waving the Aussie flag. You've got Oscar and you've got Danny. There's a Kiwi, however, who is pulling up plenty of trees. Speak to a lot of people in our office. A lot of people are excited about Liam Lawson. How much?
I'm happy to wave an Antipodean flag.
Really? You're a fan?
He's great. He has come in with so much energy. The thing that sets him apart is that he didn't come up through the F3, F2 Junior Series. He came up through the Super Formula Series, which is raced in Japan. So, I mean, he's only had 3 races in F1. He's absolutely blitzed them. He's outperformed Yuki, unfortunately. Yeah. He overtook Max Verstappen for the first time this season. He was unlapping himself, but anyway, we won't go there. He knocked Max out of qualifying.
Yeah, he did.
And he got the highest finishing of any race on the calendar for Alpha Tauri. So he's done pretty well. He's thrown a bit of uncertainty into the minds of people like Helmut Marko.
Yes.
Making decisions about who's going to have the seat. We've got Yuki Tsunoda, who currently holds it. We've got Daniel Ricciardo, who's the man of experience but has a broken hand.
Injured, yeah.
And this amazing Lawson himself. Here's Yuki weighing up who he would prefer to be his teammate.
I don't know. I think both perspective is have positive. Daniel brings definitely more experience, and he showed a lot of feedback. I think it helps a lot for the engineers. But at the same time, Liam, I think he showed in first 2-3 races that immediately he showed a good performance, and probably he's still progressing.
He spoke a lot there.
Kind words and sitting on the fence, but then something funny happened. I think he realised, and the rest of the drivers who were there realised he might have been talking himself out of a seat.
I don't know. I probably it's hard. I'm scary to say.
It sounds like Yuki Marco. Just like
yeah, I know, but I don't know. I'll stop here.
In short,
maybe
Yuki.
Liam and Daniel. 3 seats.
Brilliant.
That was Alex Albon chipping in there, making the reference to Helmut Marko, who is, of course, the very opinionated consultant for Alpha Tauri.
And they do have a big decision to make because Daniel Ricciardo, of course, does bring dollars into that team. But Liam Lawson has been fantastic. I've got enough time for one final question. I think I know the answer, Noni. You're going to be tuned in to Sunday. Who wins it?
I would like to see Sainz win again. I don't think it's a Ferrari track, though.
No. It's going to be Red Bull, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Robbie. That is the case. Tony, that was ace.
That's
you
great.
need to pop in and speak more F1 with us because you know far more about it than Robbie and I put together. Noni Edwards from the ARN News Centre. Does that mean you finish later tonight or are you still getting out on time?
I'm very efficient.
Yeah, she's good at her job.
High downforce.
Right, you're going to hear more from her. 8 o'clock news headline time. When we come back, we're talking golf, Rob, right?
We are indeed.
Yes, we are. Deep
back on safer territory for me, at least.
Robbie's going to come back into the conversation. He's going to come back in with a pep in his step. More from us in just a moment.
Dubai Eye 103.